Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Capturing the Games, the Game Within the Game podcast, featuring me, your host, Desmond Jones, and also my man's, the best co-host that's out here, right now. His name is Jawan Stewart. Today, before we get into go any further, I just want to remind the audience that Capturing the Game is sponsored by Capture Sports Agency, where the CEO and founder is Shanta Smith Jones. Since we already got the introductions out of the way, you already know what's next. Let's talk about today's guest. Today's guest is the CEO and founder of BridgeWorx, and he is also advanced scouts for the Connecticut Suns. That's right, you heard it. Advanced scout for the Connecticut Suns, WNBA legend in the house. Also, so his name is Patrick Henry. Patrick, what's going on, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today.
No problem, no problem. So yeah, let's get right into it, man. So I know my man Juwan got to take off in a few to take care of his house, newly built house. Congrats to Juwan for that. But
Thank you.
But yeah, Patrick, can you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a 20 plus a year professional in sports. I always define myself as being the son of a school teacher and a soldier, a husband, a father, and a Christian. And so that's kind of who I am. But what I do is I'm a founder of a sports consulting and people building agency. And that's kind of my easy background.
Okay, so you're an advanced scout for the Connecticut Suns. Now, I don't know if you watched the game yesterday. What happened? I guess what happened?
The way I sort of look at it is, again, I don't try to. I'm not one of those people who coach from the couch type of thing. Gotcha. So there's a lot of things that sort of go on back and forth, especially when a series is going on. So I don't really want to comment on a whole lot of stuff with it. But what I'll say this: when I asked the question of what went on yesterday, I think we got to see a lot of great basketball. We got to see 2 overtimes worth of great basketball by elite players, and so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I like it. Close to the tuck. I like it.
It's going to be a great series.
I hope it goes the distance. That's what I do hope. Now, let me ask this: how do you feel about the format, the 2 first round and second round single elimination? I know there was a big debate about just that format. I mean, I felt like we kind of missed out on some even better basketball, maybe even or the same quality the round before. What's your thoughts on the single elimination piece?
In my opinion, there's some pros and cons to it. Obviously, the pros to it is you do get the feeling of sort of the NCAA tournament where it's one and done. It's single elimination. It's a game 7 right off the bat. And there's nothing like a game 7 or elimination tournament when you're playing with the best players in the world.
Big facts.
The cons of it is, as we've said, we miss a lot of great basketball that could be played. And for fans and coaches alike, some of the strategy that goes within a series is a little bit different than just a one game situation. Where a series, you see adjustments on top of adjustments on top of adjustments.
Right.
And so we're fortunate that we do get a little bit of both. Me personally, I wouldn't mind seeing, a little bit extended because I like basketball. But I understand the rationale for it.
So let's get into it. What made you get into it? Like what made you get into scouting and all that fun stuff?
Well, first and foremost, I don't necessarily consider myself to be a scout, even though I do some advanced scouting right now. I consider myself to be a coach and a teacher and a person who builds people. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit about my history and my background. I started coaching high school when I was in high school. So in the state of Georgia, I was coaching high school at the age of 14 years old. I've always known I wanted to be a coach, and I'm doing what I'm doing now, but my goal is actually go back and being on a college campus, working with college kids again. But I've always viewed myself as a teacher and understanding the game and wanting to understand the game more and more. And so scouting is just kind of a natural part of that aspect of what I do. And what I've done. And so being intrigued with the X's and O's and the people who make up the X's and O's is kind of in my DNA. And so that's kind of what's pushed me in that direction.
Cool. That's okay. That makes sense. So you said you're a Christian, so how does faith play a part in your career? Like, how do you balance the two, with being in the field that you're in?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. For me, faith it's not necessarily even just a balance of it, it's more of an integration.
Mm.
And so how do I get the parts of me that are part of my Christian faith into what I do? And I think as all Christians, sometimes we can struggle with some of the tangible and secular things that are out there, and
Right.
and try to figure out how does this work from a spiritual standpoint. And so what I've really tried to do, and I've stepped away from coaching for about 5-6 years now, partially to help raise our young daughter. As my wife is working, my wife is in the military. She's a social worker in the United States Army. She's a major. And so as she's been working and being in active duty, I've kind of stepped away a little bit to do some of the being at homes type of stuff. And in that period of time, I've really reconnected to some of the things from a faith standpoint for me, um, and really focused on values. One of the things I talked about in my firm with clients and what I'm trying to do is really focusing on what are your values, defining what those values are. And that's kind of where I bridge the gap between, what's outside world and what's inside and what's really important to me now.
Got you. And also, kudos to you and your wife for being former service people and current and vice versa. I mean, that's a huge thing for.
Thank you.
Definitely. What made you start BridgeWorks? So how did you launch that?
Another great question. I had been coaching for years and years, and I had sort of what I refer to often as my Jerry Maguire moment, where I wanted to, because of being involved in the military, because of being involved in coaching, we were actually kind of separated all over. My wife was at one point in New York at Fort Drum. I was at Miami of Ohio as an assistant coach, and my daughter was with my parents and her grandparents for a little bit. And so that being sort of in three different places wasn't really working for me and wasn't really working for us. And so I decided to step down from coaching for a while, until my wife was getting out of the military, which she is now, and really be more of a dad, so to speak. And so I was out of coaching, but I was still getting calls and having conversations with coaches and administrators about different issues and different topics and different things, and then offering sort of help pro bono and different perspectives. I've worked for 5 national coaches of the year, a WNBA coach of the year, WNBA GM of the year. And so having an opportunity of working with those different people with different perspectives at different levels, both men and women's, gives me a certain kind of insight that a lot of people may not have. And so being able to help people with some of those perspectives and insights, kind of what I've done in pro bono. And so this past couple months, this past couple of years, I decided, let me find a way to formalize what I'm doing, and let me find a way to be impactful for what I'm doing. And so I created BridgeWorks as a way to impact people. I mean, that's what coaching really is. How do you best impact an environment for the better?
Would you mind discussing some of the coaches? I'm just kind of curious to know who is under the tutelage, I guess, there of.
Well, I've worked for a lot of great people. Kurt Miller's one with Connecticut Sun right now, who's just got named WNBA Coach of the Year. I've worked for, and I don't want to leave anybody out, so I'm backtracking to the vine a little bit, going back through stops. I've worked for Cleve Wright, who's now at Gannon University. He was at Miami of Ohio. He was a national coach of the year at one point. Worked for Kurt before that again at Indiana. Before that, I was at Texas State as associate head coach, and worked for Suzanne Fox, who was Division II Coach of the Year on the women's side. I've worked for Jeff Price, who was on the men's side, Division II Coach of the Year, NAIA Coach of the Year at Lynn. Worked for Larry Hunter, who was at Ohio University, who was a Division III Coach of the Year. I'm trying to make sure I get all the names in there. Gordon Gibbons, who is a phenomenal coach at Division II level, has won over 200 games at more than one institution. Has recently retired. And then I'm trying to think if there's anybody else I'm forgetting off the top. I'm going through the coaches of the year people, but there's been several people I've worked for. Again, a lot of great high school coaches, a lot of great high school programs too I've been involved with. So, and fortunate enough to coach it. I may have been one of the few people who've coached at pretty much every level. I've coached at Division III, Division II, Division I, junior college, AAU, and high school.
So which do you prefer the best, I guess, or which level, I guess, would you say is the best for you?
You know what? And I counsel coaches who talk about career changes about which level. And to me, it's always where you can make the biggest impact. Is that's the best level for you. Where you feel like you can have input and make the biggest impact, that's maybe the best level for you. And sometimes that has to do with who you're working with. Sometimes that has to do with the resources that you have. Sometimes, when I say resources, that also means the staff or the players that you may be able to recruit or be involved with. And so that's different. That can be different. And also, I've enjoyed every stop I've been at. I've learned a lot from every stop I've been at. I've done some things that, for some people are counterintuitive in the business. I was at Florida Southern, for example, and we were 32-2, ranked number 1 in the country. And I actually left that job for a lower paying junior college job. And a lot of people kind of raise their eyebrows at that. Why would you? Because I was a young coach and I wanted more experience and get my hands in the more things to understand how a total program works. And so that's some of the decisions I've made in terms of, well, if you really want to be a coach and you want to lead a program, you need to know how all aspects of it work. And so some of the decisions I've made career-wise, maybe not just chase bigger, brighter, better. It may be, where do I learn more? Where am I learn more where I can be of a better value and a better service of where I'm going next?
Yeah, I think that's true signs of a leader, like, being able to put themselves in the best spot where they can truly learn and grow. And at the time you make moves that are eye scratching to others, like, head scratching, like, yo, what, this man just left, is something going on? Do we need to open up investigation? Like, what's going on? Why is he leaving? And it also takes, great courage and strength to do and make big decisions like that.
Right. And
it's also too
your ability.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like if your faith, especially with us being Christians, if you're being pulled in that direction, I mean, you can't deny God saying, no, you need to. This is where you need to be right now to teach you the next step. So yeah, it makes sense.
And I would say this too, fundamentally, I think it's a mistake that sometimes I think administrators or general managers may make in terms of hiring people for head coaching positions. We can sometimes say, well, what are your goals? I want to be a head coach. Well, a head coach is a title. Okay. What you're really wanting to be is, do you want to lead a program or do you want to lead an organization? And so my goal was to always lead an organization, not necessarily just be a head coach or not just, just be a general manager. And so when your focus is on the process and the actions and not the title, you'll go a lot further in terms of what you're trying to get accomplished.
That also makes 100% sense, because I was going to ask you, since we're on this topic right now, what's the best advice that you could give to people that are looking to try to get into coaching or want to pursue a coaching career?
That's really a great question. Really do a lot of self-introspection. Know what your values are, because your values are going to be the lens that guides you into other decisions that you're going to make. So really know what your values are. And then once you know that, align yourself with people who have similar values to you within the profession. People talk about relationship building and networking. I think when you be intentional about that relationship building networking, that it's not just the name or the title that somebody has, but it's what values do they have? Do they share your same aligned values? And if they do, you'll end up having great collaborations.
Yeah, everything got to be in almost perfect alignment. Like the one thing that is almost like the what's the brick game? I can't think of it right now. Oh dear. Jenga. Oh. There we go. Jenga, where it's the one piece that if it's out of alignment or if it's not not centered on anything, everything else goes crumbling. So having that right foundation around starts with your values. So what about players? So I know you coach you impacted a lot of players, a lot of athletes across the nation at this point in time. What is your best advice that you could give to athletes that are trying to make it into the professional world, whether it be, on the men's side or women's side?
Really be a master and concentrate on honing your craft. I was having a discussion the other day with somebody about the WNBA, and I said, people don't really realize the WNBA may be the hardest professional league in the world to make because of the limited number of teams
I
and
think
the
so
limited
too.
roster spots. And so if you're talking about being a pro, then you have to be a pro. And what being a pro means is I'm really working on my craft all the time. I'm really understanding what's important in my craft, and not that you tune out distractions, because distractions are always there, but you understand this is important and this is not, and being able to triage those things. And so finding avenues to how do I get better, finding avenues of saying, it's a phrase I use all the time. You have to be confident enough to perform, but humble enough to prepare. And doing that with that value system, that's and understanding this is, what a pro does. That's one of the best ways that you can improve yourself and get yourself ready to be, if you're interested in actually being a professional. And then understanding not everybody makes it.
I'm 100% correct. And I think you're also correct about the W. Like, that is probably one of the hardest leagues to play in, because the fact, as you mentioned, the limits of spaces. There's only 12 teams, so 10 players each, 120 people at that.
Yeah, and you're talking about roster spots that are promised to people who are overseas, and veterans who they're not giving up their jobs. So
Right.
you're competing for a small number of jobs, even on a roster, because some of those jobs are already determined that they're filled. So
that's tough. And so it's like, since we're on the WNBA, what would you like think or see is the next evolution for the WNBA? So for example, like when I look at the NBA, for example, I grew up watching the NBA for the most part, so it wasn't until of recent years I started getting more and more involved in the W. But one of the biggest things that have changed for the NBA is positionless basketball, or also just the 3-point shot, and like the 3D guys. What do you see? What do you think is the next step for the WNBA in this game?
I think really it's not just the WNBA, but it's people watching the WNBA. It's the realization of that we have a great product, both WNBA and women's college basketball and women's sports in general. It's a great product. And people say, well, there's not a demand. There is a demand, but we have to market it, and we have to give ourselves opportunity to show what kind of a product is. I mean, if you watch last night's game, the double overtime game, that's a great product. People, if you present it to people and give it a fair opportunity, people will really enjoy watching the W. People will really enjoy women's sports in general. I think there was an argument in the past, well, it's not about that people just don't know the names, and people, I don't buy into that at all. And I think, as we've seen, when we make investment into women's sports, the return on that investment is incredible.
It is. It's still unfolding, across our eyes right now, just because with everything, the playoffs right now, currently going on at the time of this podcast that we're recording. So I mean, I'm also looking forward to the league expanding, and I just want to be able to see more teams, and also give other cities a chance to root for a team that's local to their city.
Right.
What are some things that athletes should do more of, and what are some things that athletes should do less of?
I'm going to give you an answer. I'm going to give you the same answer for both. The word is listen. I think athletes should listen more. I also think they should listen less. The key is who and what you're listening to. And so I think it's a combination of both of those things that we mentioned distractions before. And I think we can get distracted in some things that aren't important, that are on the peripheral view. And I think being an elite level athlete, I mean, the perfect example is the Olympics that we just saw. And I use this example. Imagine training for 4 years for an event that lasts 10 seconds. 4 years for an event that may last 10 seconds. And so that level of commitment of training for something that's going to last like that. Okay. And a lot of athletes want to win, or they want the gold medal, or they want to be successful. But winning is more than just the end result. Winning is the process. And so listening to people who fill your cup through that process. Fill your cup with positive things through that process. And some of the positive things may not be all what you want to hear. It may be correction, it may be critique, but filling your cup with those things and the work ethic involved with that. So listening more to that and listening less sometimes to the result of, oh, it's a gold medal. Oh, you get this. Oh, all these tangible things that sort of happen at the end result of it. But so my answer to that is listen for both of those. It's just what and who you're listening to.
That's a great advice. Yeah, definitely great advice. I do want to talk about your coaching career a little bit so far.
Okay.
But what were some of the things that you had to learn as you went through? Like, what were some of the challenges that you had to go through being a coach?
I think one of the things that we get involved in is that we think that one size fits all when we're first involved in coaching. If I do it this way, like this coach says, it's successful everywhere. And one of the challenges, and it's a blessing for me to have been at different places and work with different people, is to understand that culture is organic to where you're at. And I know culture right now is a big buzzword for everybody. A lot of people will talk about the culture of their culture. Or they'll get up on, head coaches or somebody who's named a head coach for the first time will get up on the podium or the dais and go, we're going to have an absolute culture. We're going to be great in the classroom, great in the community, great on the court, and all those things. But at some point, the lights go off. The press conference is over. Then you have to step down and go, okay, what do we really mean, or what are we really doing? And so one of the things I've had to learn, and one of the things that I teach clients and teach and talk to people about, administrators about as well, is what is creating a culture? What is creating an environment that's success looks like and success feels like? One of the great quotes I heard from was Pat Riley. Who once said that, someone asked him what leadership was. He said, leadership is defining reality for an organization every single day. Defining reality for an organization every single day. That's powerful when it's simple, but it's powerful when you really think about it.
Yeah, I just started saying that.
You're defining what things are. You're defining what goes and what doesn't go, and who you bring in to help enforce that, help establish that. And so that's what one of the things that I've really had to learn. And then for me, what culture means. And I've said, if you could crystallize culture in the simplest definitions and the simplest words, it's who you are and what you do. That's what your culture is. Who you are and what you do. And for me, who you are has to do with character. What you do is mission. So your character and your mission is going to define what your culture is. Your character and your mission define who you are as a person as well. And so your values and standard, that's your character. Your mission is the objectives that you have and the actual plans that you have to meet those objectives.
That's powerful right there. Like when you even mentioned that quote, I just shut up. I was like, ooh, like that's so good right there. What about your time as a video coordinator? What's some of the things that you had to learn, as being a video coordinator, and how did that help your skills in other areas such as coaching?
Yeah, I started out, as a let me backtrack a little bit. In junior college, a lot of times in Division II, you're the only other assistant, or there may be two assistants. So you have to do a lot of everything, which is one of the reasons why I did that. And so part of what I was doing, as an assistant there was video stuff and that kind of thing, of cutting up videos, preparing videos for players, preparing videos for scouts and that. And so when I was at Indiana, I was full-time video coordinator. And so one of the great things about being a video coordinator, a lot of people say, well, it's kind of a tough job. You're looking at film all the time. And to me, it's a blessing because you get to see what other people are doing around the country. So as you're editing stuff up and you're cutting stuff up for people, you get to see the trends. You get to see, oh, I like this, let me borrow this. I like that, let me borrow. And it helps formulate or inform your own philosophy of what you want to do on the court. And so you start thinking about, I like this, I want to do this. Then you start doing your own research of, well, how would I teach it? Because there's another thing about knowing the system, and I say this to young coaches all the time. It's not about the new hot system that's out there, because we go through stuff a lot that becomes a new hot system, and the next thing becomes a new hot system, the next thing. But it's also, can you teach it and can you implement it? You said something interesting, and I have this little debate with coaches a lot about, well, we're moving to positionless basketball. Well, I can remember when I was in 7th grade at Tabor Middle School, we ran flex, and everybody filled every position in flex. So if everybody filled every position in flex, and in 7th grade, when I was in 7th grade in Tabor Middle School in Warner Robins, Georgia, we were playing positionless basketball then. So it's not that it's new, it's just repackaged and redefined, and some of the roles are redefined. And so being a video coordinator helps you see different aspects of what different things do. I tease people now in the old days, we used to have to actually go places. We couldn't do synergy where we would just send tape over email or video. You actually had to cut tape up, or you actually had to drive somewhere and exchange it. You drive halfway to somebody else, exchange a VHS tape, and hope and pray whatever was on the tape was actually there, because you drive back and see if it was actually there. Or you'd have to wait on FedEx or the US mail and that kind of thing. So I'd say you guys got it easy now with video and all that.
Gee, I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for technology and how far it has advanced, because I feel like it's made a lot of jobs easier, but then also like difficult at the same time. You know, I still have like an old school mindset to certain things. Like some things I wish like technology wasn't doing for us, because at the same time, like technology has helped us but become more efficient, but also like it has been somewhat of a detriment to us as well.
I agree. Yeah, I would say this though, technology also is a choice. And so we can choose, and if the onus is on us to have agency to choose when we want to use it, when we don't want to use it, when we want to plug in, when we want to unplug. I was teasing my daughter the other day. She's 9 going on 49, I say. And I was teasing her the other day about the remote control. I said, when I was your age, I was the remote. So I would turn the channel for mom and dad. So I said, you're lucky now. So
man, I can't tell you how many times I was a whole like different part of the house. I hear my name called, Desmond, can you come turn the channel for me? Like, what? Like battery out of remotes, or remote didn't work with the TV at the time, where she couldn't figure out how to do it. So here I am walking across the house to go change a channel. Just go, like, she didn't want to get out the bed to go do it. So but I had to be one, because I was just the littlest one in the house.
So you was lucky, because I had my dad worked for the cable company, so he knew the technology. So he fixed it. I didn't have to fix it.
Man, I still get phone calls about everything, whether it be TV, apps, how I can't get my input to switch over, I can't get to the picture display, what happened to my app that was here. I get all types of stuff.
Well, yeah, I didn't say I didn't get them now. I definitely, since I'm in, basically excelled my dad in his expertise in technology, I basically leaped past him. So now I get all the calls, and even though I don't even work for the cable company, I'm like, what? This is his stuff. Like,
well, you are permanently tech support. When you become a child to a parent, you're permanently tech support. Just know that going
in. Yeah, that's true.
So in terms of scouting, for the W, what I'm pretty sure you can't really go into too much detail about it, but I don't know if you can just give the audience or just people, our listeners and stuff, like a little insight, or what you look for in players when it comes to scouting.
Well, let me define what I do or have done for Connecticut. And when we talk about scouting and regional scouting, really, there's two kinds of scouting. One that, and every organization is sort of different, and professional organizations are sort of different. In the WNBA, regional scouting is basically, for example, I live close to Atlanta. And so when a team plays the Atlanta Dream, I'll go watch them. And, I may be assigned, two or three teams or one team or whatever. You'll go watch them. COVID's made things obviously complicated and difficult. So it's a different year. And so a scout may go watch the team as they come in, and then send them notes in advance. Or they may supplement that with games on television, that kind of thing, and then send that to the coaching staff, and they kind of do their own thing and do the stuff they need with it. And the NBA kind of works that way as well. Usually in professional organizations, they'll have scouts on the West Coast for all the West Coast teams, and scouts on the East Coast. And so as teams kind of cycle through and play, you may have somebody who's located, in the NBA, like in Philadelphia or Washington, D.C., where it's a quick train ride to go see somebody in New York, go see somebody in, DC, go see somebody in Philadelphia, and you can catch 3 or 4 5 different type of teams. So you may be assigned something, you just send your notes in, that kind of stuff. And so it's similar a lot of that way in the WNBA. And every franchise's commitment and in terms of what they want to do is different. And so there's that kind of scout. Now there are also other kind of scouts who do college scouting of teams and stuff for a draft board. I've done that before for the Atlanta Dream at one point, just looking and evaluating players, that kind of thing. A couple of GMs ago, so that's a different situation. So every sort of program or organization has your own sort of thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Every organization has a structure of how they operate and work and wants to operate and work. Well, yeah. So, Patrick, did you want to share anything else with us before we go into the rapid fire segment?
No. The one thing I will say, and I always say this when I do coaches clinics, and been invited to speak at coaches clinics or podcasts or that kind of thing, just to tell coaches and leaders, especially in college administration, is because to me, it's one of the founding principles I sort of have in terms of being coach. When people ask, well, what is your coaching philosophy? My mom was a elementary school teacher for 38 years in the public school system in the state of Georgia. And one of the things that she imparted with me, and I sort of adapted to coaching, is this: it's not what you know, it's not what they know, it's what they know and can do under pressure that counts. And for me, that speaks a lot into what you want to get accomplished. It's just not having the knowledge of stuff. It's not just them having knowledge of it. Can they apply it and make decisions based on the best information that they have? And so when we coach, that's really what we're trying to do. And when we lead, that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to be the best versions of themselves so that an organization or program can be the best version of itself. And how do you get them to, again, make great decisions? And so we want to create a world and a place of great decision makers. And so that's what really coaching is, almost to the point where your job as a coach is to make yourself obsolete, where they don't need you anymore. And so reminding coaches and reminding leaders and reminding administrators, that's really what our purpose is. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the number one, what do you think is the number one goal as a coach? What's your number one job as a coach? And I heard somebody say, well, no, it's winning. Well, no, it's not winning. It actually isn't. Winning is important, but it's not winning. Well, it's for them to graduate. No. Graduation is important, but it's not. Your number one job is safety. Emotional safety, physical safety. That's your number one job as a coach. As a professional sports professional, I know your wife is an agent. As an agent, her number one job is to make sure that their clients are safe. Okay. In that partnership, in that relationship. Your number one job as a spouse to make sure your partner is safe, and that emotionally and has support, emotionally, physically, all that kind of stuff. And so our job is to make sure that we serve people and support people. Speak the truth in love, but we serve and support people. And so it's important for me to say that, because I think that sometimes gets lost in all the part that we do that's competitive, that we look at the trophies, we look at the titles, we look at the banners. And, I've been fortunate to be part of teams that have won conference championships and been to the NCAA tournament and all those type of things. But at the end of the day, all that is important. It's not that it's not important, because it is, but it is the most important thing that we do is create decision makers who make positive decisions for themselves and for their environment. So I do want to make sure I did say that and had that said.
That was bars right there.
Yeah, it was beautiful, man. Like that was like a chef's kiss worth of words right there.
Because, right.
Like, oh my goodness, like I just had while he was talking, I had a reflection of just like my marriage, life, and as a whole, like, I'm never like a type of person. I'm always consumed by titles. I'm not a title chaser or anything. I'm concerned about, making sure things is done right, making sure that we're doing whatever we're currently doing is done efficient, but and also just care about the I don't know, that just goes to my character, just divides everything. It's like, I'm a man of God first, so I try to make sure I amplify that in any situation or scenario that I walk in. Just because there may not be another person that looks like me, or may not. This may be the last time that some people may come across someone like me. So I just try to amplify that in every situation, or just every circumstances that I go through. But just the whole aspect of just safety first being the number one thing. Like I never really even heard that from a coach's point of view, and I don't know. It just my mind over here.
Well, yeah, you don't hear about that often.
Yeah, and to be honest, you can't really be your best unless you feel safe. you can't really be your best
Mm.
unless you're in a state, you feel like you're in a state, because you're always then worried about the next thing or this or that. So when you're in a safe, supportive environment, and supportive doesn't mean I'm going to pat you on the back all the time. Sometimes it means I'm going to kick you in the butt. But when you're in a safe, supportive environment, there is no limit to what you can do.
True that. It was cool too that you said like it's like you're trying to get yourself out of a job, essentially, like make yourself obsolete. It's the same kind of philosophy in my field with technology. Like I'm a engineer, but automation is the new future. Like I want to automate myself out of position if I can. Like that's really what I'm striving for. But people look at that and say, well, why would you do that? Well, if it breaks, I can fix it. That's the key. Like I know how to fix it. It's the same as, if you put it in terms of people, it's like when they need somebody to come to, I'm the person that they can come to. Like we're still, even though they may be on their own doing their thing, but I'm still here for them if they need me in the background. So definitely makes sense for sure.
Yeah, like I'm all about trying to equip people with what they need. And so that, not that I don't want them calling me, but I'm here if they need help. But here's all the tools you need in order to succeed.
Exactly.
Here's your how-tos. I try to be detailed as possible. I give them pictures, where to click, circle, let it be red so it stands out on paper. But like both me and Juwan are in like the computer science engineering realm. So like automation is big in everything for us because we don't want to have to go from place to place, if everything is just run autonomously in the background without us even having to touch it. That's a dream world for us.
Awesome.
But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and end our interview segment with that because I think that's such a high note to end on. And we would go ahead and transition into our rapid fire round, where it's the game within the game segment, which is one of the staple moments of our podcast. So my question for you is, Patrick, are you ready to play?
I'm ready to play. Nervous but ready.
It's easy. Let's start things off. The very first question is, do you prefer chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal raisin?
I am unpopular opinion, oatmeal raisin guy.
Let's go.
Oh no.
Let's go. New trend started. Let's go. So
man.
The past couple of people has been chocolate chips. I started to feel like offended.
No, rephrase that. It was the last. We have 7 now to 3. Okay, so say it right. It's 7 to 3. Okay.
I can justify though. I can justify because I say that oatmeal is healthy, and so in my mind I'm going oatmeal raisin. Yeah, so it's healthier because it has oatmeal in it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll let it
Good
pass.
choice.
I'm gonna let it pass.
Good choice.
So the next one is TV shows or movies.
Ooh. I would say, that's a tough one. Because to me, it depends on what I'm watching. You know what? I'll say movies, and I'm a cheat because the movies can have franchises which are like shows. So I'll say movies.
What's your favorite movie?
I can't pick just one. I was a communication major. And so I'm enjoying right now, this is gonna sound silly, I'm enjoying the little run of Marvel movies because my daughter is into that and the whole superhero thing, so I'm enjoying it, seeing those things and through her eyes, and so I'll say those movies right now. So but my actual favorite, I really do like I like Shawshank Redemption a lot.
Ooh, classic.
Yeah,
that is a classic. So who's your favorite actor or actress?
I don't know if I have just one.
Top 5. We'll go top 5.
Some of it will be classic. Some of them, I like Jimmy Stewart. Okay. I like Denzel. Viola Davis is a favorite of mine.
Oof.
Let me think of top 5. That's what, 3. There'll be somebody I'll forget. I'll go. I like Tom Hanks. Just because I like people who can do a lot of range. Right. Let me think. there'll be somebody I go, oh yeah, I should have said that. I like Robin Williams too. Just again, range.
Okay. I'll go with that. Good list. That's solid list.
Solid list. Who's your top 5 in the WNBA?
Ooh, you're gonna try to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
The starting 5 of the Connecticut Sun.
That's fine.
That sounds like a similar answer we had before. Desmond. Someone else said the same, but for a different organization, different team. That's what they said. The same thing.
Starting 5 There you go.
Sparks. That's what all we heard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's okay. So we get it. you got to root. You got to root for the whole team. So respect to that. So who will be your top 5 in the NBA?
It's funny. You get all these asks, who's your favorite coach? Who's your favorite player? And when you've been involved in sports, you find out that because there's investment all the way around, you just appreciate greatness and you appreciate the work that people put in. It becomes difficult for a top 5. I'll say this: a player who I really enjoy watching play right now, and that always shifts because this player just happens for. I really enjoy watching Damian Lillard play right now, in terms of just the work that he puts in and the work, and you see the growth that he's as a player. I really enjoy that. Now, obviously, there's some all-time great players and all that kind of stuff too that I enjoy watching. But he's a person right now I've really focused on a little bit just because I'm focusing on some guard stuff, but I'm also enjoying watching him play.
Yeah, you can also do it. Yeah, you can also do it all the time if you wanted to. So it doesn't have to be just people that's currently playing.
Oh, that's you're throwing in people like Kareem for me, and you start going on with Kareem, Oscar Robertson. Just you've seen tape on people. I mean, I enjoyed this generation of LeBrons and the KDs and all that too, and obviously that middle generation of Jordan and all that Magic. I mean, the name of top 5 just because you start thinking about this guy. Oh, and Olajuwon. Oh, and this guy. And then for Americans, we're spoiled, but we're also disadvantaged because we didn't see people like Sabonis play in his prime. We didn't see people like there's a guy in Brazil who's named Oscar Schmidt, who's one of the greatest players of all time. That we got a glimpse of him play at one point in it used to be the World Games. But if you saw him, you'd be like, wow, he's like a Larry Bird. Or you see a Drazen Petrovic. Or there's some people that we didn't get to see. That in their best of their best situations, that it's different
for sure.
And that includes I would say same thing with women's basketball too. There's some players that we didn't get to see.
Oh yeah, I already know.
Yeah,
I wish I would have seen more of it, especially growing up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna jump here. If you could go pro in any sport, what would it be?
In any sport, it would be, I'd still say basketball. I'd still say basketball. Maybe football, but I would still say basketball just because, you get the whole Lenny Wilkens player coach thing.
Yeah.
So you could still coach and still play. I just limit my minutes.
Safety first.
There you go.
Okay. What would be your favorite sports moment that you've either seen or witnessed?
Ooh. Favorite sports moment. This is going to sound funny. My favorite sports moment for me personally is the first game I coached when I was 14. And really, it's not even so much the first moment that I coached. It was the night before, thinking about the game. That was actually my favorite, a moment that I go back to and recall because it was the first time of me doing it. And even at that young age of doing it, so coaching high school while I was in high school, and just the thoughts of, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? That kind of thing. So.
Yeah, let me ask questions about that because I forgot. Well, I didn't forget. I wrote it down in my notes, like as I'm typing everything. So I like to listen and type. But what was it, coach, like being a head coach of your peers at the time?
Well, it was an unusual situation. It just sort of happened with a gap and whatnot. So I ended up coaching people who were my age or older. I was actually younger for my grade. So I ended up coaching people who were my age or older. And one of the things that did cement for me is that often if you just have a plan and the plan makes sense and you can articulate the plan, people will buy into the plan, or people will go into the plan. I just said something, buy in, and I'll say this. I've actually edited out the phrase buy in into my vocabulary. I don't like using the word buy in because it becomes transactional. And really, what I try to practice, and even at that age, what I want to try to practice was build in. So instead of buy in, I want people to build in, because then it gives them equity in what we're doing. And so thinking of that idea of how do we get people on the same team, on the same page, as part of the same whole, how do we get people to build into what we're doing rather than buying? Because it's buy-in, it's transactional. It's like loyalty points, type of thing. We don't want that. We want people who have some equity in what you're doing.
So you tell me no one on that team, kind of question your decision making at all? Because it's always that one. It's always one play on the team that does it.
There's always that one, but I think if you have, I say this about the championship level teams too. Championship level teams have championship level locker rooms that have championship level habits. Okay, and so if you have championship habits and championship locker room, that kind of, I don't say take care of itself. It takes care of itself. So again, it's about nurturing the process of that locker room and making people invested in it. Yeah, if I don't feel invested in something, or you don't feel invested in something, you're quicker to challenge it. You're quicker to go, I'm not gonna do that. You're quicker to go, and people who cease to believe cease to behave. And so keeping that in mind, you start going, oh, okay, how do we get somebody invested in what we're doing? How do we get them to see not just point A to point B, but there's a point C that they can be involved in beyond that? And so again, that's part of leadership.
Exactly. All right, so we're gonna do a who would you take in this situation? I'm taking Breanna Stewart or Maya Moore.
Well, I'm a Georgia boy, so I would my reflexive instinct would go Maya Moore because she's home team. But again, I would go, well, who else do I have around me? Who else? It always, context matters.
Okay.
But by hometown instinct, I would go Maya.
Maya. All right.
Okay. Vince Carter or Tracy McGrady?
Again, with the caveat, depends on around me what I need. I tend to like flexibility and creativity. So I would probably go McGrady, depending on what else I could get, but that would be my first instinct to go with what else is available that I think I could get beyond that. And that's one of the challenges of a draft or being involved in the draft is understanding, okay, it's not just people all the time, well, why did they pick this person? Well, they're also looking at who else they can get later on down the line, whose contract on their roster is already up, and what's going to happen in the following year. What can you get in the following year? So
how was it being being involved in some of the draft processes for some of the teams?
Right. For Atlanta, it was a lot of just, what do you think of this player that you've seen, or how you're watching people on TV, or you're watching people, or you're going on the road just watching games and that kind of thing. And hey, what do you think? So you just get some input in that process of that. And ultimately the general managers make the decisions, coaches make the decisions but you just offer input of what you've seen and whatnot. To me, it's akin to being on a college campus and you're doing your board for recruiting. And that's a whole, recruiting. Sometimes we forget that it's not just the ceiling that you have in recruiting, but it's also raising the floor at the same time. And so a lot of people forget that process of you need to be able to raise the floor of your organization or your program and the ceiling at the same time as you're doing it. So it's not just, do you have a plan A, but do you have a plan B, and how do those pieces work together? And we talked about positionless basketball. We talked about not having, traditional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anymore. Well, how do you implement that? And how does that change with position? Again, your wife being an agent. Well, this player's a 2. Well, maybe a 2 for you, but then maybe a 4 for me. And that's going to be different depending on where you are and which organization may need short and long term.
Got you. So last one.
Okay.
Any organization you could take over, who would you choose? I mean, it could be any organization. We're talking, it could be Chase Bank. It could be Apple, Google, Connecticut, any place. It doesn't matter. Anything.
Any organization I could take over. Let me say this, because I think takeover can be, and I'm going to qualify this again, takeover can mean a lot of different things. If there was an organization that I would want to be a part of, I think there's any organization that has a purpose to serve and people that want a purpose to serve, I'm all in for, and are actively looking to do that. If there was a place that I would want to be at this particular moment, I would say it's Florida State, women's basketball. That's where I would want to be. Because that's one of the places where I got my first college start at. And I have a tremendous love for that program and then Tallahassee, the place there. So I'm a Seminole at heart.
And both the men's side and the women's side is a great program. I can't think of the coach's name that's down there in the men's side, but I know the work that
Leonard Hamilton's on the men's side,
yes.
And Sue Cimarron's on the women's side. And really, they both do. That whole athletic department does a phenomenal job with their coaches in terms of leadership, especially with women's sports.
Mm-hmm.
Their SWA does a tremendous job. They're in transition with the athletic director right now, but those two coaches, Leonard Hamilton, and it's kind of like the old commercial of E.F. Hutton. When he talks, you listen. When Leonard talks, you listen. And Sue Cimarron, same thing. She's done a tremendous job of building that program from where it was to where it is now, and how much she cares about her players and cares about her people. And that's caring, again, that whole caring and safety thing. That's a big thing that both of those two coaches, it's something to emulate.
Yeah, that's definitely that's going to be one of the programs I'm going to be heavily watching this upcoming fall and going into the spring. I'm going to keep my eye on that particular school in general. Well, Patrick, we have one last question. Where can people go and follow your career and keep up with everything that you got going on and be in tune with what you have going forward?
Well, you can you can follow me on Twitter. Either you can follow me at Coach Pat Henry on Twitter, at Coach Pat Henry on Twitter, or my company, which is BridgeWorx, and it's spelled BridgeWorxCS. So it's BridgeWorxCS, spelled a little bit differently. And in both places, social media wise, you can follow me there, or you can go to the website, BridgeWorx, same spelling, cs.com, and follow there for any inquiries in terms of things that we'll be able to help coaches and administrators sort of do.
Well, you heard it there, ladies and gentlemen. Please go ahead and follow Mr. Patrick Henry on all those social media accounts. While you're at it, make sure you're giving Capturing the Game a follow on Twitter. It's CTG _ pod. On Instagram is Capturing _ game _ pod on Instagram. On Facebook and YouTube, it's just Capturing the Game podcast. Once again, Patrick, we thank you for all the knowledge dump that you've been doing to me and Juwan, because you said a lot of amazing nuggets. And I already know when we do this episode, there's going to be a lot of quoted content from this. I feel as though you're like a genius in my eyes right now, the way you carry yourself, and also you're very also charismatic, but also just the core values that you bring to the table, and that you that you fortify every place that you go, but also just the fact that you're also a man of faith at heart. That means the world, at least to me. I know for sure. I'm sure this means the world to Juwan as well.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me.